said it about learning to win.
Yeah.
The best example of that I can think of is when the Pistons first had to learn how to beat the Boston Celtics,
Yes.
then the LA Lakers, and that's they learned that path that way back in the late '80s. You're right. And think about the Tigers too. Not only are these guys that have been around a few years learning to win, these young guys coming up, they don't know how to lose. They haven't been through these losing seasons.
Yeah.
All they know how to do is win.
And not only did the Pistons have to learn how to beat the Celtics and then the Lakers, but the Bulls had to learn how to beat the Pistons.
The Pistons, yep.
So you're
and that was the
absolutely
gateway.
right.
both the Pistons and the Tigers doing well. So
Jim
I'm in
Stark.
my heaven right now.
He's the executive director of the Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy. We will be right back. It is our golf half hour, the long drive with Tom Lang. And we'll be right back with that and much more coming up on The Drive with Jack.
As families and communities across Michigan gear up for an historic back-to-school season, Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join their dedicated team of school bus
Dalila Muhammad was the silver medalist. The Tigers beat the Red Sox 4-2. Miguel Cabrera with his 498th career homer. Manager A.J. Hinch says Cabrera, who also has 2,944 hits, is a must-watch these days.
When he comes up to bat, I mean, everybody's on their feet. They're looking for the number to change, either the hit number or the homer total. And Miggy's delivering with really good at-bats.
The Pirates were no-hit into the seventh by Adrian Hauser of Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh rallied for an 8-5 win in 10. That's sports. Frank Arity, NBC News Radio.
You're listening to The Drive with Jack Everling.
You want to win, don't you? Well, I think I'd really rather try to beat him honestly.
SpotlightMediaStudios.com.
Well, welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. Here with my producer, Alex Heward. Alex, I think we're going to adjust the camera here. We have with us Tom Lang. He is the editor and publisher of Michigan Golf Journal. Tom, how are you?
Doing great. Lots of activity, that's for sure.
You got a new issue out we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes.
August,
right?
Yep.
And you were just telling me about a phenomenal sounding event in terms of a scramble. How much fun would that be? 9-hole scramble with 3 of the biggest names in the area. I don't know who the 4th lucky person's going to be. Do you know who else is going to be in this group?
I'm sure they've asked 3 or 4 people. They're trying to make sure they pick the right person. But, yeah, it's going to be up at the Ally Challenge in Grand Blanc, which is the final weekend of August.
At Warwick?
It is. It is. So it's a Champions Tour event. Well, PGA Champions now, I guess, is the technical.
Right.
It's a 54-hole event, so they'll play Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
And Saturday of that weekend, the regular tournament will go on, and as soon as the last group passes the 10th hole, up to the tee will step Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, and Tom Izzo. And they'll add a 4th person, and they'll have a team versus team scramble, best ball. And 2 years ago, before COVID, Nicklaus played in it with Kid Rock. And the country singer that performed that night, and Hendrik Zetterberg from the Red Wings.
Nice.
And it was tied after 9 holes. The entire crowd was following them. The rest of the tournament didn't matter. And Nicklaus, on a playoff, chipped it in from 75 feet away.
I think I've seen that video. I think I saw that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But being in a group with Nicklaus and Trevino, I mean, just playing with Trevino is so much fun.
And they mic him up, of course. That's the best part, is the mic'd up. Wow. The golf is okay.
You know what they could do? I'm not trying to tell them how to run this thing, but this would be something. Now, this is all charity-oriented, right? They're raising money. Okay.
Absolutely.
If they threw that 4th spot open for a bid, and I'm usually not someone who thinks that just because you've got big bucks, you're entitled. But if they threw that open and let people bid for it, I know a lot of very well-heeled people who would bid. It'd start at 100,000.
You can bid to be the caddy for Nicklaus and Trevino.
You can.
You can bid for that.
Okay,
yep.
that'd
Go to
be
the
nice.
Ally Challenge website.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Nicklaus says to you, like every other shot, what should I hit? I mean, what would you say?
Just ask him, what did he hit in the U.S. Open?
He's on the green on that last putt. He needs to win this, and he says, how much break should I play? Whatever you think. Yeah, but I would guess that there are some a lot of millionaires in the state of Michigan, who would pay mega bucks for a chance to play with Nicklaus Trevino and his.
I would think so, but at minimum, they are going to let people bid the caddy, so that's a good first start.
Wow. All right. Lots going on, and we have a couple of special guests going to be joining us. Chris Hale from Shanty Creek
Resort
going to be joining us, and James Pyatt, Michigan State standout, won his 2nd GAM championship, right?
He did. 3 years ago, he won his first.
And we have lots to talk about from Michigan Golf Journal. I went through the copy you sent me today electronically. And, I always find something in there that I have to stop on. I can't just go through it. There's always something that makes me say, I didn't know that. I got to read that. I got to find out about that.
Right. Not every story is for everybody.
Right.
But there will almost always be something that catches your eye, whether you're following junior golf or college golf or pro golf, whatever. Variety is my biggest importance. I cover a lot of women in golf and whatnot too.
Yeah. What kind of reaction are you getting to that? And how many people are on your subscriber list? I imagine a lot of people see it, right?
Absolutely. 4,500 have subscribed on their own.
Okay.
But the distribution is through other golf group channels, and it's over 175,000.
Fantastic.
So if you don't get it, it's probably in your spam. So check there, folks.
All right. We have our first guest with us online. Do you want to do the introduction on Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Hale is a marketing director up at Shanty Creek Resort up in Bel Air, Michigan. Beautiful Bel Air, of course. A little side note, he also recently just took a job as soccer coach for the boys at Traverse City Central.
Wow.
So combining soccer and golf. Are you there, Chris?
Yes, sir.
How's it going up there today?
As we like to say, it's another beautiful day at Shanty Creek.
Yeah, when is it not?
You know what? It is. I am fortunate enough, and I recognize that I got 4 seasons of beautiful scenery all around me.
And you've got more courses now than you had. You got 5 courses up there now, right?
That is correct. We are the new owners of the Hawkseye Golf Course, which is it runs just adjacent to our Cedar River Golf Course, which is our Tom Weiskopf Golf Course. And with that, Shanty Creek now has 90 holes of golf on property.
Tom, how does that compare to other properties around the state and around the country? Can't be many with more than that.
Well, Chris was telling me, and I believe it based on the limited research I did, that having 90, I was going to say 518s, but 90 holes at one location puts them in the top 10. It ties with a lot of other resorts, of course.
Yeah.
But it puts them in the top 10. And that really wasn't a reason you added Hawk's Eye, was it, Chris? What was it that made you guys want to go after that property?
Well, in so many ways, the golf groups that come to us in droves, they're always looking for variety. And the concept of not repeating the same course during a stay is a pretty important piece. Mm-hmm. And, the Hawkseye course is a beautiful course. It's a really interesting design. I wouldn't call it hokey. I would call it just interesting. And as far as modern era courses in northern Michigan go, it's a beautiful space. And, to that end, having that variety really does make a difference when folks are choosing where they want to go and stay. And in this case, what you guys just mentioned, it's all in one location. So, from time to time, golfers tend to maybe have a drink or 2 or more. And the idea of not getting in a car to drive to another, destination for another course sure is a win-win.
Well, when you think, Tom, that they had 2 pretty good courses up there with the Summit and Shush.
And the Legend.
And then you get Arnold and Weiskopf coming in and designing the Legend and Cedar River, right?
For sure.
And now you add Hawk's Eye. You're in a position, Chris, to do something that I think is ingenious, and it's going to make every course better. And that is that you're going to have one day for each course where you can shut it down. You still got plenty of places to put players, and by the end of the year, your courses are going to hold up a lot better than some others.
It's absolutely part of our strategy in having multiple courses, and the fact that, midweeks just do tend to have a lot less play than the weekend. So having all 5 courses open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then using Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to rotate closed days for longer-term maintenance, it is a win for the courses, for the turf, for the carts, and even for staff.
Tom, how many of these courses have you had a chance to play or see?
Well, I was just up there about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
I started out in the Legend.
Mm-hmm.
Had never played that before.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. I drove around Shush with Chris. I didn't have time to play it that day.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to play Cedar River, but got rained out, unusually. But I played that about 20 years ago, and that's kind of what led me to go back up to Shanty Creek. And the gist of my story is it was way too long for me to go back. I shouldn't have waited that long. Really had a good experience when I was up there, like I say, about 2 decades ago. I was invited by the High School Golf Coaches Association to come and speak at their quarterly meeting, which they held there. They wanted to know more about how to get high school golf into the newspaper industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so we played, and it was very memorable to me. The 18th hole always sticks out to me. And I think if people say, hey, Shanty Creek is there, but I might go play someplace else that you're more used to and you haven't been to Shanty in a while like I hadn't, go. Don't stop. You're going to really love it. They've got a course called the Summit that's great for younger players and people starting out. A lot of trees, but wide open. The tree limbs on the lower part have been cut out, so even if you go into the what's not really woods, it's grass-covered area, you can punch out and keep playing. And it's not super long, so it's good for people that are starting the game too. So they offer something for everybody in your group.
Chris, you mentioned the fact that the courses are close together and easily navigable. I mean, maybe you can get that at Pinehurst or someplace, but most places you don't have 5 courses that close together. Really makes for a nice operation.
Sure. The total, I guess, circumference of where each pro shop is located, all are within a 5-mile radius. So it's pretty tight. And for those, like I mentioned, who might have had a drink or two, our resort offers complimentary shuttle service between all pro shops and lodging options. So it's a way to also, feel like we're not going to ruin the trip because of an accident or worse.
Chris keeps mentioning that drink or two, Tom. Tells me that the 19th hole in the clubhouses here are pretty good, too.
I did not check
You didn't
them
try
out
those
myself.
out?
No,
Okay.
I'm just not I'm more of a teetotaler.
I got you.
Well, and it's true. Not everybody does, but
yeah.
it would probably just be blind to assume that most don't, because many do.
That is true.
Here in Bel Air, we are home to Shorts Brewing, which is pretty Midwest, if not world famous soon.
I did go there.
Yep.
And tried one of their new beers.
So with Shorts in our town, as well as we've got a craft distillery, we've got a wine bar, there are plenty of 19th hole options. And again, that complimentary shuttle service when you're a lodging guest of ours will take you in and out of downtown Bel Air to keep it safe.
Yeah, Chris, talk a little bit about that region. Bel Air is very beautiful. It's known for Torch Lake being nearby. Your hotel looks over Bel Air Lake. What are the other things if somebody, like a family, goes up and 2 of the 4 people are golfers? What are some of the other things in that region people can do?
So, yeah, you're spot on. The fact that we sit right here in the center of the chain of lakes of northern Michigan. Torch Lake is just an 8-mile drive away. The shores of Lake Bel Air are just down the hill from the hotel. So certainly the waters provide a lot of folks with some options, whether it's, renting a boat from one of the local marinas and heading down to the sandbar, or, there's quite a few people who go out for a kayak. Not only are the lakes a good option for that, but all of the connecting rivers, which makes up, quote unquote, the chain of lakes, they provide great waters for kayaking and canoeing. And then we've got Glacial Hills, which is 30-plus miles of single track designed by International Mountain Bike Association members for some hiking and biking and trail running, if you're into that. And then not too far away also is the Grass River Natural Area, which is a nature preserve, another 7 miles of trails, and another 1,500 acres to explore to just get to know the wildlife and the nature of the area. So, we like to say Bel Air is fresh air, and during this time of pandemic, finding ways to get outside and play has been pretty important to an awful lot of people, and we have just been fortunate enough to offer an awful lot of ways to do that.
Chris, I guess we can't call Tom Lang the Fresh Prince of Bel Air when he comes up there, right? That's been taken. I wanted to ask you if you know how many people you get at the courses are up there at least for the summer, how many live up there, how many just come up for a week or a weekend. Can you track that?
Actually, it's pretty hard to track that. I do know that there are several hundred property owners who have both homes and condos throughout the villages of Shanty Creek, and many of them are club members of ours, so they certainly take advantage of their properties and our golf courses and the value that those things combine to form. An awful lot of folks, too, throughout the state who live in the downstate region have their second homes and cottages and condos up here as well. So there is an awful lot of bleed over there. I don't know exactly what that Venn diagram looks like, but it's pretty healthy.
Tom, you have a last thing for Chris?
Well, I just wanted to add that I did play Hawks Eye. It sounded like my trip maybe was cut short. It was not. I had a great time at Hawks Eye as well. Had never played that one before. So really great addition, Chris. I second your goals of giving the courses a chance to rest. That day off, some of them get 2 days off. Repairing the grass is so important. I think that's the only way golfers are going to enjoy themselves is if the place looks beautiful. And I think the worst thing a resort can do is overplay their courses.
I appreciate that sentiment. I know it's not popular with everybody, but in the long run, it certainly will make a difference. And I wanted to add real quickly, just because you guys mentioned it, and I do know the fact, we are tied for 8th in North America for most holes at a single location, and worldwide 14th.
Wow, that's pretty impressive stuff. You think there are a couple complexes in the state of Michigan that rank up there, and tied for 8th. That says a lot about Shush. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. I hope that maybe next year we can get up there and see you.
I would welcome you and everyone who's listening.
Maybe we can do a show from up there, Tom. What do you think?
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. All right, Chris Hale from Shush Mountain. Tom, I want to go over a couple of things here quickly before James Pyatt joins us. And in this latest issue of Michigan Golf Journal, you got a lot of different topics. We've already talked about the chances for a major coming to Oakland Hills.
Right.
We've gotten into that. But new 9 opening up at Saskatoon.
Yep, they had their grand opening ceremony middle of June. It was rained out, but I went back a couple of weeks ago and played it. It's designed by Paul Albanese and Jerry Matthews, kind of reuniting.
Oh, yeah.
Albanese got his start under Jerry Matthews when he moved here to attend Michigan State,
right?
Get his master's, and so they kind of reunited to build this fourth 9. They had 54 holes already at Saskatoon. It's huge for league play,
right?
At that place, they have like 1,700 league players a week.
Wow!
To the point where this new opening, it's just called the Silver Course. They have red, white, blue, and silver. I think it is. Maybe there's even a gold.
Okay.
Maybe it is 5 courses. I've lost track. They got so many golf holes there, but it's beautiful. It's on the best land of their entire property. They had to buy some extra land to make it happen a few years ago. It's all sand base, rolling hills. There's a creek that runs through it that affects 2 major holes.
Okay.
It's just really beautiful. The league players want to play it so bad they've had to close it down 3 days a week.
Wow.
Because it's already, the grass is still tender and needs a chance to grow in, but really nice layout. I think people should try.
You also have a story here that I found interesting about state of Michigan's only female head course superintendent,
right?
Michigan State background, and you got a piece, and we're going to be talking about this next week, about the new practice facility at Michigan State. You're talking about what happens in a place like that where you can really improve your game. I'm anxious to see how that gets utilized.
Yeah, Karen O'Dell is the woman you mentioned. There are women who work at lower levels, and they're learning how to be a course superintendent, but she's the only female head superintendent that we know of in the state.
Yeah.
She works up at Mackinac Island, but she has in the past been head superintendent at Oak Point in Brighton. She also was in another northern Michigan, north of Gaylord, and she even helped launch Treetops.
Wow.
As a support person.
Well, we have with us now James Pyatt, and pretty phenomenal tournament. Now, this is 2 Golf Association of Michigan championships for James. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, what's it like the second time? Does it mean as much, more, the excitement level? You're a veteran at this now.
I mean, it's just as exciting, Anytime you get to put your name on a trophy, it's a special feeling. So it was definitely an awesome week, and especially being out at Franklin Hills, I I mean, one of the coolest spots I've been to is, I mean, in the state of Michigan, never been there before, and it was phenomenal. So really enjoyed the whole week there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of rich history there, isn't there, James?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was just walking around there. Felt like it was like the Augusta of Michigan. That's how I described it to someone.
It's beautiful. If people ever get a chance to play a charity event or something, go do it. But I wanted to ask you, the GAM Championships, 54 holes of stroke play, 36 on Monday, 18 on Tuesday. It might not be ranked up there with winning a Michigan Amateur, but how do you compare the two events, and would you have one that you really want to win more, or does it not matter in that regard?
I would definitely say the Michigan Am is, a big-time event to win. Would have loved to have gotten it done this year and put my name on that one, but that's definitely a really prestigious event. I mean, I think the GAM Championships just a touch under that, but still, phenomenal event. And it was, like I said, anytime you can win an event, it's a great feeling. So, hopefully get a shot at it next year if I'm still an amateur this time, and we'll see where the future takes me.
You talked about the final round, James, as being relatively stress-free, and I guess so. If you only miss one fairway, I could play golf 100 times and I couldn't say that. What were you doing? You just striping it down the middle?
Yeah, the driver was on, and actually I was doing some in-round analysis after the interview, and I actually hit one green on the back nine, so it wasn't really as stress-free as I thought it was.
Okay.
I mean, I shot even par, but the short game was on too. I didn't notice that until I was off the course and did some breaking down of the round. But it was fairly easy chip shots, so it just kind of stuck to it and grounded out. So it was nice, and I didn't really know that Coulter Smith was at 5 under, finished an hour before me or so, and I wasn't really playing with that heat of knowing if I made 2 more bogeys, I was in a playoff. So I just kind of kept the pedal to the metal and stuck to it.
Talk a little bit about who one of the runners-up was. Your teammate at Michigan State, Bradley Smithson, who, if listeners don't know the name and or his most recent accomplishment, he won the Michigan Open a couple of months ago, which is the biggest tournament in Michigan for Michiganders because it includes pros and amateurs. But what kind of fall season do you guys see, not just for the two of you, but the entire team?
I definitely think this is going to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest team we've had at Michigan State since I've been there. I know Brad's playing some great golf this summer. Some of our Michigan guys, August Meekoff, there's a few other guys playing a great summer, so we're looking forward to it. We got a couple of good freshman add-ons. One from Canada, he's got 2 wins this summer, Ashton McCullough. So we're looking forward to having him in East Lansing, and hopefully, everyone keeps the pedal to the metal, like I was saying. We should be a top contender this year in the Big Ten.
Well, you mentioned Bradley Smithson, your teammate, but Coulter Smith, a Wisconsin Badger, shot 62 in the last round. Tom, when you think that a guy shoots 62 and James can say, yeah, I beat him. How does somebody shoot 62 in the final round of a tournament?
I mean, the putter had to get pretty hot. For the college guys, Franklin Hills is in a extremely long course. You got a lot of wedges in there, but they did a great job protecting it with challenging pins. So I didn't see anyone going out there and shooting 62. I mean, I had it going hot one day, and I got a 65, but I was like, 62 is phenomenal playing no matter where you go. And like I said, I didn't know he shot a 62 out until I was actually in the 18th fairway, and Brad checked the leaderboard on his phone. He's like, holy crap, Coulter shot a 62. I'm like, oh, man, what was he at before that? Because I had no idea. I'm like, am I losing the tournament right now? So it was crazy to see that. That's phenomenal golf, and hats off to him for that round.
No, when that kind of stuff's going on, and he's a Big Ten competitor, is there any smack talk going on at these events when it comes to Big Ten play?
I like to keep it light. I'm not a big trash talker before tournaments. Maybe a little bit after with the close buddies, but no, we keep it all light. We're all good friends. The college guys, you see them half the time in the fall, so it ends up being those are some of your better buddies, the guys that are Big Ten players. So it's cool going out there and competing. And certain guys like to talk a little more trash than others, but it's all in good fun.
We're talking with Michigan State standout James Piot, and just won his second GAM championship, and this was not a one-off, Tom, when you think that last week Western Amateur made the Sweet 16, and now getting ready for the U.S. Amateur Championship. That's next week?
Yes, sir. Leaving Friday for Oakmont, so looking forward to that one.
And it's your second consecutive, right? Were you out at Bandon Dunes and did really well last year?
Yeah, last year at Bandon Dunes, I was the 2 seed in the medal play portion and won my first match and got knocked out in the round of 32. So it was a cool experience and something that gave me a little experience for this year, and looking forward to making a deeper run this year.
Do you have Casey Lubon caddying for you, or do you want him to stay as far away as possible?
That's an interesting dynamic with him, but no, I mean, I spent a lot of time with him in the postseason, just him and me walking together, and he does a phenomenal job at that. But I actually have Coach Ellis on the bag this week, so
good.
I do have a Spartan coach with me, so I'm looking forward to that. He's really good with the numbers and all that stuff, so that'll be cool this week.
Well, good luck to you at the U.S. Amateur at Oakmont, historic layout, and congratulations on another GAM championship. It's going to be fun to watch you and your Spartan teammates in the upcoming season. Thanks for joining us, James.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Tom, great job, and it was good to have Chris Hale from Shanny on with us, right?
They're a combined unit. Yep.
Right, and to have James, and we'll be back next week with more golf on the Long Drive, brought to you by Golf MSU and Forest Acres. We'll be right back with Tom Crawford.
Hello, this is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered. Education is so important, and it doesn't mean you have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD. It's really about what is best for you and what you need to take, whether it's a certificate or studying something in the trades, or you need an associate's degree to further develop yourself. There's a great opening for people at all ages and at all stages of life who are looking to go back into education and redevelop themselves. Check out my latest podcast with Davenport University and Lansing Community College as they join forces to host an online event to start or finish your degree. Like and subscribe to Spotlight Podcast on our YouTube and Facebook pages and watch all my episodes, or you can listen in on your favorite podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play by simply searching Education Unfiltered. This is Mary Stucco. See you soon with more conversation on Education Unfiltered.
When it's your moment, that once-in-a-lifetime moment, you don't just want jewelry. You can get that anywhere. You want a memory that will go down in history, your moment. We're Medawar, crafted with exquisite style, quality, and love, so your present will be stunning every time you look at it, every time someone notices it, and they will notice. We've devoted our lives to this art, and we're proud to share it with you. The gift you want to give is here.
Medawar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, Portage, and Brighton.
Live across the Great Lakes State, you're connected to Michigan's most engaging and influential radio and television program, Michigan's Big Show, starring Michael Patrick Shields.
Great to be with you, Michael Patrick. You're the show I would want to be on. Forget those other ones.
Michael Patrick, it's always a pleasure to be on the air with the K&B Airways. Thanks for having me on again.
That's a very good question.
Those are all great questions. Good morning.
Thank you. Michigan's Michael Patrick Shields.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. The White House is defending the CDC order to extend the eviction moratorium across much of the U.S.
It was a more limited moratorium that was going to be impacting and helping areas that were hardest hit by COVID.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki noted the moratorium is temporary. More district attorneys in New York are looking into the sexual harassment allegations against Governor Andrew Cuomo. The DAs in Manhattan, Albany, Nassau County on Long Island, and Westchester County are requesting materials from the independent investigation. The report from New York Attorney General Letitia James found that Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women in violation of federal and state laws. The U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan is getting torched by the top Republican in the Senate. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell again slammed President Biden's plan to get all remaining U.S. forces out of the war-torn country by next month. month, while warning the pro-terrorist Taliban will easily overtake the Afghan government. Lisa Taylor, NBC News Radio.
Michael Patrick, welcome to Dusty's. Did you walk up today?
I sure did. I walked up here to the patio at the tap room, having a glass of wine, and then I'm going next door, Matt Rhodes, to your Dusty Cellar to get my 6 for $60, and I'm going to carry them all the way home with me because I'm counting my calories and counting my steps these days.
Yeah, the 6 for $60 is going great for the summer, and we have a whole new category of wines called Better For You wines, which have 0 sugar and less calories.
No kidding. So for a glass of that, how many calories?
85 calories or less.
That's all. That's fantastic. All right. I feel good about that. I'm going to try those, and I'm looking forward to that. And we are here at Dusty's Cellar and the tap room. And by the way, it's not only the wine that walks out of here. You're doing a fairly brisk business in the catering, I hear.
That's right. Catering's picking up as fall comes, and tailgate season is almost here.
Isn't that great? People are having parties again. They're getting together again. And what better way to have a party than not have to worry about the stress of cooking? Have you do it.
Come see us on Grand River and Okemos or online at dustycellar.com.
Cheers.
Cheers, Michael Patrick.
A number of deals made by the Lakers as they continue to retool around LeBron James. One of them, inking free agent Carmelo Anthony to a one-year deal. He had spent the last 2 seasons in Portland. L.A. also holds on to Talen Horton-Tucker, giving him a 3-year contract, and they've agreed to terms with Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk. The U.S. women's basketball team routed Australia in Tokyo 79-55 to reach the semifinals. A new world record in the women's 400-meter hurdles for Sydney McLaughlin, who took gold. Dalilah Muhammad was the silver medalist. The Tigers beat the Red Sox 4-2. Miguel Cabrera with his 498th career homer. Manager A.J. Hinch says Cabrera, who also has 2,944 hits, is a must-watch these days.
When he comes up to bat, everybody's on their feet. They're looking for the number to change, either the hit number or the homer total. And Miggy's delivering with really good at-bats.
The Pirates were no-hit into the 7th by Adrian Hauser of Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh rallied for an 8-5 win in 10. That's sports. Frank Arity, NBC News Radio.
This is it right here.
Combining a team of reporters, columnists, and commentators.
Don't you ever talk about me!
Are you serious? Jack Ebling has brought thought-provoking discussion.
What are you doing? That's a damn coaching mistake.
Opinion.
The customer is the one who decides when the future gets here.
Oh, no! The ship is on fire!
You have to check the report.
Are you kidding me? That game was fixed.
And overall infotainment.
I'll take Jim Harbaugh. What has he done?
Crazy Cooter coming at you.
Quiet, please. In exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
Thanks, big fella.
Don't you ever come back here again.
No arguments. Those are called ass tunes.
So buckle up.
You talking to me?
Whoa!
It's time for The Drive with Jack Ebling.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, the Spotlight Radio Network, and Jack Ebling here with my producer, Alex Heward. We are trying to get Tom Crawford on the phone with us, and we should be doing that shortly. I don't know how much of the Olympic track you've had a chance to catch, but 2 of the greatest Olympics races in the history of the games, the last 2 nights in the 400-meter hurdles. And Karsten Warholm, tremendous job taking that 400-meter hurdles record for men below 46 seconds. They thought it would never go below 47 until he broke the world record earlier this summer. Now he took it all the way below 46. This is 1 full lap around the track over 10 barriers. So when you think that normally, for a high school runner, if you get below 50, and for a collegiate runner, if you're around 46, well, try running below 46 over sticks. That is nearly impossible. And then last night, a tremendous matchup. And Sydney McLaughlin with another world record. So, hey, when it comes to events, the United States owns, you can start with the 400-meter hurdles. All right, let's go back out to our guest line. Very happy to welcome in Blue Belly Tom Crawford, my broadcast partner for 19-plus years. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jack. It's August. It's August 4th. That means college football is just around the corner. So I'm good.
31 days away from Michigan State's opener at Northwestern and 32 days away from Michigan hosting Western, right?
Yeah, Western Michigan. That's a noon kickoff on Labor Day weekend. The big one, though, and it was just announced today. I got the email from Dave Abloff in media communications for Michigan. It's going to be a maze out that night, Saturday night, Michigan versus Washington. That's on ABC at 8 o'clock. So that's when you're going to find out how good the Wolverines are. This is a team, the Washington team has 22 starters back. They're in most top 20 predictions. It's a good football team, and yet it's a must-win for Michigan in terms of Jim Harbaugh retaining his job.
Michigan holding fast at 8 wins in Las Vegas, the over-under projections. Are you still thinking that they might be under on that?
Yeah, I'm going back and forth. I'm doing that, just based on a lot of conversations from with people that I value the opinion of, and that have a closer insight than I do, and I'm pretty close. I mean, I know pretty much what's going on personnel wise, and I'm going back and forth. I'm concerned about depth. I think Michigan's got some good players, but when you match them up against what Ohio State has, and then you're still, you're going back, you're trying to envision game number 5 going to Madison, a Wisconsin team that has a lot of players. But there's just a lot of returnees in the Big Ten that when I was at Football Media Days in Indianapolis, there's a lot of talent back and a lot of transfer portal talent that's come on board with a lot of these schools, and then Ohio State just dripping with talent, and you're getting a quarterback who's coming out of high school early to play, which is nonsense in itself.
Yeah, and when you look at what Ohio State is bringing in, Bob Trippey sent me some info on this yesterday, and number 1 quarterback in the country, Quinn Ewers, he's coming in a year early.
Yeah, is that crazy?
Yeah. The number 1 wide receiver in the country, that's Emeka Egbuka. The number 1 running back in the country, that's Travion Henderson. The number 1 defensive lineman in the country, that's Donovan Jackson. The number 2 defensive lineman in the country, that's JT Tuimalu. The number 3 defensive lineman in the country. So they have 1, 2, and 3, the top 3 defensive line prospects in the country, Jack Sawyer, and the number 3 cornerback, and that is Jacqueline Johnson. So Ohio State recruiting, you got Ohio State and Alabama, and maybe Clemson sneaks in there, and everyone else is trying to get them with pea shooters.
Yeah, exactly. And so when everybody makes these projections, members of the Big Ten East, when Mel Tucker talks and Tom Allen talks and Jim Harbaugh talks about what they want to accomplish, I mean, there's a huge black cloud hanging over all the goals that you're trying to achieve. And how are you going to knock off Ohio State, which is Alabama-esque caliber talent every year? They're right up there with them, and it's downright unfair. It seems like to me, and it's not going to be much of a competition. I cringe what Thanksgiving weekend on that Saturday is going to be in Ann Arbor when the Buckeyes come to town.
Is that liable to be a save your job game for Jim Harbaugh? That it'd be nice to beat him, but at least you got to be competitive this time.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about what it's going to take Jim Harbaugh to retain his job, Jack, it's a lot of optics besides a lot of metrics. I mean, it's how they compete in a couple of these games, and one of them is there's two critical home games, one in late October with Northwestern and one in early November with Indiana. And those are good teams. I mean, Michigan State's going to find out how good Northwestern is in the week number 1, and that's a tough opener for Michigan State.
Yeah.
And if they won that game, they're off to the races. I mean, in their own little world. I mean, that's a great boost. But back to my point is, there's so many pitfalls. I mean, that besides beating Ohio State, which seems like an overwhelming situation. Same thing with Wisconsin on the road. They got to beat Nebraska on the road, and people might snicker about that, but most prognosticators will look at that as a 53% chance of winning in Lincoln. Well, that's 47% chance of losing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this could go either way. I have some people that I really respect their opinion of that cover Michigan, that have them in the 5-7 range. And can you imagine how that would go over in the Michigan fanhood?
Not well. Yeah, I'm thinking about the Michigan-Nebraska game, and it was 1997 when Michigan and Nebraska shared a national title, and now they share something else, Tom. They each have a former quarterback, a hero of past greatness, who was on the hot seat.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying. I mean, Scott Frost. I'm not sure about how hot his seat is. If it's as hot as Harbaugh's, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, Harbaugh's is now. I mean, Jim was, and I mentioned this. I think last time you had me on was this weird kind of relaxed state that he was in.
Mm-hmm.
He looks great. He looks like he's been working out.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looks like a different guy.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if he's just at peace with himself, saying, "Hey, listen, probably not going to happen. I'm not going to get through the season, but let's just have some fun as we go." And the dynamics of the team so far from input we've gotten from a few players is it's a different environment. We hear that every year.
Right.
But the defenders like this Mike McDonald approach downhill. The problem with downhill, you got a secondary that, gives up 250 yards through the air, which was one of the worst stats last year in the country. You can be downhill all you want, but if you let things get behind you, which they've been doing in the last 3 years, you're in a whole world of hurt.
Well, wasn't that one of the Don Brown problems? The blitzes when they got there were great, and the aggression was great, but you were susceptible to the deep ball, and you were susceptible to crossing routes, and if you don't take a little more conservative approach, you leave yourself vulnerable when you don't get home.
Yeah, he was too liberated on his approach. It did not match the personnel.
Right.
I mean, he didn't have NFL kind of speed at linebacker last year,
right.
And you got some ISO, you got some matchups there that were horrific, and especially when they play Ohio State. Now, I mean, Michigan State exploited Michigan. They got behind that secondary. That secondary was a train wreck. The safeties are good. The corners, that's a big question mark. And so I'm just in this believe it. I got to see it to believe it. That they're going to get back. The 10-win thing, I just can't buy into that. And I'm saying, I used to be 11-1 kind of guy. Me back a couple of years ago. I'm in the 7-5, 8-4 range as far as that regular season mark, and probably leaning more towards 7-5. It just goes back and forth. Fickle me, Jack.
Well, Tom, in fairness to Jim Harbaugh and Don Brown, I'm always trying to stick up for the Wolverines. But when you when you think about those corners last year, they had some corners they thought were going to be in the lineup, and they opted out. And those are pretty good players. Those are NFL-type players, and they didn't have them.
No, I understand that. But, but let me give you an example. I mean, Vincent Gray is now in his fourth year, and this is an example. And I'm not trying to get down on this kid, but I mean, he just hasn't improved. I mean, the thing about Michigan is, and this historically from past decades, Michigan players, they've been 5-year guys. I mean, in 1992, for example, they had 15 guys that were 5-year guys.
Right.
That won 5 rings. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have that anymore. You don't have that kind of, depth. But Vincent Gray just has not gotten better. So now all of a sudden you have this second-year guy, third-year guy, DJ Turner, who's probably going to beat him out.
Yeah.
And it's just you never had that happen before, that a veteran would lose his job, because you knew by the time he was a junior into his senior year, he was your top-flight player, and that's not happening lately.
Tom, a lot of candidates, a lot of guys who have come in with reputations or at least aspirations of playing early and often. Who's going to be Michigan's starting quarterback for the Ohio State game, maybe for the Michigan State game, and who's going to lead the Wolverines in rushing?
Well, those are great questions. The quarterback situation, I think by the time, if you're talking about the Ohio State game, even talking about the Michigan State game, which is, I believe, October 30th, I'm going with J.J. McCarthy, the freshman, because even though I think it's going to be similar, I go back to 1975, Mark Elzinga, Ricky Leach, that kind of thing, where Elzinga got as much action early, and then all of a sudden it faded over to Ricky Leach and exclusively. And I think that's going to be the case, that J.J. McCarthy is going to just, I don't know, he's just a raw talent, and he's a future-type player. And you got Alan Bowman, the transfer from Texas Tech, who's you're hearing about him in the mix, too. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. But I think by the time it gets to that point, and I'm going to go on, for leading rusher, I'm going to go with Hassan Haskins. Just, he's a senior, and he looks terrific, and he's the hardest worker on the team. But watch out for Donovan Edwards to get a lot more carries than a typical freshman gets at Michigan.
And Blake Corum, right?
Blake Corum is the middle
too.
guy. He's running. Yeah, number 2 is running number 2 back. It's a three tailback rotation, which I think most teams have. But that could be some equal amounts of carries between those three. And that's the big X factor. Can Michigan get its running game? Can it have 150 yards minimum each game, which has been kind of an exception as opposed to the rule of getting that many. They haven't been able to run against good teams. They can't run against Michigan State typically, and they certainly can't run against Ohio State.
Well, I thought Cade McNamara did some good things last year, but whether it's McNamara or Bowman or J.J. McCarthy, one thing we know is it won't be Joe Milton.
No, he's long gone. And you think about those number of transfers, but then I look at, Michigan State had a lot of players go out the door. This whole transfer portal thing is crazy.
Last year we saw Joe Milton at quarterback for Michigan and for Michigan State. Yeah, you got both quarterbacks are gone.
Yeah,
right. Rocky Lombardi's at Northern Illinois.
I know. It's almost like what Major League, back when the Kurt Flood thing, the free agency, all of a sudden, like with the Tigers in the 60s, the batting lineup was the same for like 5 years in a row. The batting order. It's like, and all of a sudden here comes free agency, and we know what goes on now. There's just a revolving door. Well, now college football, the transfer portal, it's the same thing. You have to relearn the names, who's coming back, who transferred. And there's new blood coming into the program, and so it's just like you reunite with the team, and the coaching staff has to do that. Michigan's got so many new coaches on the staff. They only have a couple guys rolling over. It's a whole new dynamic. Whether that's good or bad remains to be seen, but it's different than last year, no question. And I hope it's different in terms of the culture and team chemistry, because it was severely flawed. There were some big problems and lack of effort. We saw that with Michigan State game, the Wisconsin game. You talk about bad optics, that Saturday night game. Oh, my word, that was a bad look for Michigan football, 49-11.
Yeah. When you think about the Big Ten, Tom, and we've talked about Ohio State and what a behemoth the Buckeyes have become, it was a great piece done in The Athletic. And looking at possible structural changes for the conference, one of them has a revision of the conferences, of the divisions. One of them says no change whatsoever. Another one has them going basically back to leaders and legends, maybe changing the names, but that kind of concept where it's not geographically based. And then there's the idea that they just will do away with the divisions. But I don't see any situation that hurts Ohio State.
It doesn't matter how you slice it. It's going to come up Ohio State until one of these programs, Indiana, takes it to a whole other level, which I don't think they're actually capable of to get to that Ohio State level anytime soon. There's been some great progress Tom Allen's done, but it's not going to come from them. I don't think it's come from Penn State. Penn State's kind of been flat.
Right.
The last couple of years. Northwestern has its limitation. Who's it going to be? It's not going to be Iowa. Iowa's Iowa.
Yeah.
And so Michigan or Ohio State is all by itself, and the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is just from an historic element at best. One times Michigan has won since 2003. They won in 2003, and it's been one time beating Ohio State. That was 2011, and that was even dicey. Ohio State had the ball and running late with Luke Fickell's team on the interim basis, not a very good team, and they almost beat Michigan. So it hadn't been much of a rivalry at all.
The statistical analysis with this piece, Tom, is that if you would remove Ohio State from the mix, much like people now are talking about, well, if you take football out of the equation, then Title IX works. But you can't do that. If you take Ohio State out of the equation, the East and the West are almost identical in records. But when it comes to the Big Ten championship game, starting in 2013 with Ohio State and twice with Michigan State and once with Penn State, the East has won the championship game in Indianapolis 8 straight years.
Yeah. No, not just Ohio State, too. I mean, Michigan State's been part of it. You look at the Big Ten title game Ohio State was behind Northwestern.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they go out and just crush the representative from the West.
Right.
But they play. It's almost like it's like the bully in the playground. You're just going to play around with this guy, thinking like he's in it, and then they're going to sucker punch him at the end, and it's over with. It's not like that Wisconsin game. I think in 2014, 59-0.
Right.
I kept thinking we're going to see that every year, and that has not been the case.
Right.
But they're still way and above everybody else in the Big Ten.
Tom, when you think about the Big Ten 10 years from now, how's it going to look? How many teams is it going to have? What are we going to be seeing?
That's another great question, and I'm almost clueless trying to answer because I don't know what's going to happen with college football.
Right.
This Texas OU thing, which Texas romancing the SEC since the spring, and other Big Ten teams doing who knows what's going to happen with the Big Ten, and so and so's unhappy. I've had these discussions. Oh, so and so's unhappy, and I'm clueless what's going to happen. But I think Ohio State is going to remain a juggernaut in college football. No matter what league they're in, they're going to be better than any other Big Ten team. It just seems like that line of demarcation is almost set in concrete. Moving forward. I hate to sound discouraged and and negative, but I am discouraged because in the last since 18 years, however long this has gone, like I just said, since 2003, it's just been dominating my team.
Well, I was fooling around with this the other day, Tom, and came up with a crazy idea. I've never been big on these super conferences, but I said, what if the Big Ten, and Andy Staples actually suggested something like this, but what if the Big Ten got really bold and said, we're going to beat everybody to punch, we're going to be the Big Ten times 2, and we are going to add from the Pac-12, Washington, Oregon, Stanford, UCLA, and USC, and having USC, which is a deal breaker for Notre Dame now in the conference, you somehow figure out how to get Notre Dame into the Big Ten, and the way you might be able to do that, because Notre Dame does not want to be a Midwest regional school, is you have 4 or 5 team divisions, and you assign Notre Dame to the Eastern Division, where they're playing all their games right now, and they're geographically actually closer going to Maryland and Rutgers than they are going to Miami and Tallahassee. But you can do that with 4 or 5 team divisions, and you have got television sets. You're probably going to double your revenue per school, and the Big Ten then would be the big beast on the lot.
Well, yeah, that would be great if that happened. And it beats the heck out of bringing in the Ames, Iowa TV audience, which is non-existent. And I know the Big Ten is a powerful conference from a revenue generation standpoint. Let's be real.
Yeah. Then you would have 7 teams left in the Pac-12, Tom, and those 7 would combine with the 7 that would be left in the Big 12, because West Virginia would go back to the ACC. It would stay where it belongs. Yeah. So you'd have 7-7. You have 14 teams in this Big 12 Pac-7, whatever it would be. You'd have 14 there, but you would have coast to coast for the Big Ten, and with 4 or 5 team divisions, you'd play the other 4 in your division. Michigan State would have Northwestern, Purdue, and Indiana in the Lakes division. And then you would play one rival that you would mark from another division, and then you would play one team from each of the other divisions, but you'd only play 8 conference games, so that gives you the right to schedule 4 outside, and that gives Notre Dame the right to play Navy and 3 other teams at once, and wants to travel and play in Ireland, so be it.
I think it's a great idea if it happens. I mean, and then when you deal with non-revenue sports, you're doing things division-wise and regional-wise as well to save money.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right. All of your competitions would be divisional or the adjacent division, and the only time that would change would be for conference track meet or swim meet. Yes.
So you're still you got to go through each other.
That's right.
To be the conference champion. I think. Do you think it's going to happen?
I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think that there's a chance that if you can impress those 5 Pac-12 schools, that they are really swimming uphill, but they can have a piece of this Big Ten mega pie. And if they can get Notre Dame in, but you got to have USC or you don't have any chance to get Notre Dame to flip. And if you could do that and put together the 20, you would have the dominant conference, and the SEC would be sucking wind.
And the Big Ten Network would be a huge revenue generator. All those TVs, my word.
Yeah, and it's Fox. Pac-12 is Fox, so Fox could throw billions at this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a 4-conference final conclusion. I think. Yeah. I mean, it's not the Power 5.
Yeah.
And I actually think that FBS. You're going to get those 4 conferences. The quote unquote Power 5 is a division by itself. To be, I'm thinking moving forward. I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah.
But in terms of national championship, and maybe they'll still do the 12 team, and the group of 5 can still be in the hunt. But there'd be a huge line of demarcation between those Power 4 leagues and all the money that they would generate, and the group of 5s underneath.
Exactly. Thanks so much for joining us, Tom. Hey, we're going to see you on Press Pass.
Yeah.
Sunday night. It'll be show 410. So we're sneaking toward 500. Looking forward to seeing you Sunday evening.
All right, Jack. Always fun to be on your show.
We'll be right back with Keith Nickel up next on The Drive with Jack.
As families and communities across Michigan gear up for an historic back-to-school season, Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join their dedicated team of school bus drivers. They offer competitive wages and paid training, quality benefits, flexible schedules, and most of all, endless opportunities to make a difference. Apply today at deanjobs.com to join this critical effort to help students return to learn this fall. deanjobs.com.
At Culver's, we cook our butter burgers pretty much the same as you would at home, only our 3-cut blend of fresh beef will do. Then you'll need to master our signature press and sear technique. You may want to practice a few thousand times. Add real Wisconsin cheese, top with a lightly buttered toasted bun, and serve yourself with a big warm smile.
Better yet, come to Culver's and leave the whole cook-to-order butter burger thing to us. Welcome to Delicious.
Welcome to Be the Referee with veteran MHSAA official Sam Davis.
One of the long-term strategies in the game of football is deception. It has a lot of other names and most often goes these days by the name of trickery. Catching an opponent off guard can break a game wide open, but catching the officiating crew off guard is something you don't want to have happen, or else your big play may be blown dead inadvertently. That's why during the pregame meeting the officiating crew has with each head coach, one of the questions that will be asked is, Coach, do you have any trick plays that we should be watching for? And coaches, who are usually tight-lipped about a lot of their strategies, will be very open and describe in detail anything fancy that's in the playbook for that game. This type of communication gets coaches and officials on the same page and ensures that when trickery comes visiting, only the opponents are surprised.
Thanks, Sam. You can be a referee. Go online now to MHSAA.com to register. Be the Referee is a production of the MHSAA Network.
Jack Ebling here with Forest Acres course manager Brian Harris. Brian, it's just about time for some new product. You've got them all here at Acres and terrific club fitting.
Yeah, we've got some of the best club fitting in the state of Michigan. We utilize the TrackMan technology with all the major brands. So if you're looking for clubs for yourself or that special person in your life, then we're the place to go.
Lots of different manufacturers.
Lots of different ones from all the major brands, Titleist, Callaway, Ping, and more. So please come see us for your club fitting today.
Stop out at Forest Acres. Take care of your golf game. Jack Epler here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Matt, you got some new product, including electric vehicles.
Yeah, we got a lot of new product coming, Jack. On the Chevy side, we've got the 2022 Bolt EV and all-new Bolt EUV, which is just redesigned from the ground up. We're really excited about that. That's going to be hitting a lot any day now. Next door at Nissan, we've got the all-new redesigned Pathfinder from the ground up. I got to sit in it recently, drop dead gorgeous. And then we have the 2022 Frontier as well, which is completely redesigned. So fantastic product coming, and we're really excited.
Stop by and see Matt and company here at Graph of Okemos. They're making friends.
At Culver's, we cook our butter burgers pretty much the same as you would at home. Only our 3-cut blend of fresh beef will do. Then you'll need to master our signature press and sear technique. You may want to practice a few thousand times. Add real Wisconsin cheese, top with a lightly buttered toasted bun, and serve yourself with a big warm smile.
Better yet, come to Culver's and leave the whole cook-to-order butter burger thing to us. Welcome to Delicious.
A number of deals made by the Lakers as they continue to retool around LeBron James. One of them, inking free agent Carmelo Anthony to a one-year deal. He had spent the last 2 seasons in Portland. L.A. also holds on to Talen Horton-Tucker, giving him a 3-year contract, and they've agreed to terms with Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk. The U.S. women's basketball team routed Australia in Tokyo 79-55 to reach the semifinals. A new world record in the women's 400-meter hurdles for Sydney McLaughlin, who took gold. Dalilah Muhammad was the silver medalist. The Tigers beat the Red Sox 4-2. Miguel Cabrera with his 498th career homer. Manager A.J. Hinch says Cabrera, who also has 2,944 hits, is a must-watch these days.
When he comes up to bat, I mean, everybody's on their feet. They're looking for the number to change, either the hit number or the homer total. And Miggy's delivering with really good at-bats.
The Pirates were no-hit into the 7th by Adrian Hauser of Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh rallied for an 8-5 win in 10. That's sports. Frank Arity, NBC News Radio.
You're listening to The Drive with Jack Epler.
Just trying to grind through camp here. Good fundamentals, build our conditioning, just keep getting better every day.
SpotlightMediaStudios.com.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, the Spotlight Radio Network. Here we are 31 days away from the start of Michigan State's football season. Like all of our Wednesday shows, this one brought to you by Graph of Okemos. And stop and see Matt, Mark, and Greg on West Grand River. Graph Chevrolet and Graph Nissan. They'll take great care of this. They have on all 7 of my leases and purchases. Alex, I want to welcome in a guy that I first saw playing quarterback for Lowell High School. And he was one of the best high school athletes I have seen, only going back to the 1960s, so I can't speak to before that. But I can tell you that he was dynamic on the field, and he was a pretty good wide receiver for Michigan State as well. Made a ton of big plays, and now doing very well in business. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. Want to welcome in Keith Nickel. Keith, how are you?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing fine. First of all, congratulations. Ranked as one of the top 100 financial advisors in the nation?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I have a lot of mentors to thank for that, and my experience at Michigan State was a big part of it. But, yeah, we're really excited about the business we're building and the people and the clients that we're working with. So it's been a lot of fun and a lot of work, but we got a lot more fun and hopefully a lot more work to do, too. So we're excited.
Northwestern Mutual, what's the association for you?
Yeah, so I run a kind of a private wealth management group, my own team inside of Northwestern Mutual there, where there's kind of an independent investment arm and an insurance relationship there. So it's been a great working relationship and partnership with them, and they've been ultra supportive of what we're building, and we're really excited.
Well, I see Mark D'Antonio took note of this, and his chest is puffed out. He just had a tweet congrats to former Spartan quarterback / wide receiver Keith Nickel on being named as one of the top 100 financial advisors in the nation. Hashtag Spartans will. So I know how proud Mark is of what some of his former players have accomplished after they hung up the pads and the helmet, and you certainly fit in that category.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and he's been ultra supportive of me all the way back to my high school days, and he hasn't stopped even till now. So he even called to congratulate me and shot some texts over, and that kind of support means everything to guys like myself and guys who played for him. So we know he's got a lot of great alumni doing great things in the NFL, and he's got a lot of great alumni doing things externally too. So he has a lot to be proud of.
Keith, what did you learn from your former coaches? Noel Dean, right, at Lowell?
Yep.
And then Mark D'Antonio here, and you had a cup of coffee at Oklahoma too. But what did you learn from Coach D?
I mean, Coach D'Antonio he's kind of like a stepping stone from where I was with Coach Noel Dean. There was a lot of similarities, some differences, of course, but he was the ultimate put your head down. It's blue-collar work. It's all day, every day. Adversity is a part of the nature of the beast. Like, you have to expect it and appreciate that. And that it's all about high integrity and high character and taking pride in what you're doing. And so those kind of principles are things that I've carried on forward as, running a business and as I serve clients. It's not what you've done in the past, about what you're going to do ahead of you. And it's about doing with high integrity and high character and always doing the absolute right thing at all times. As painful or as good as it might be, it doesn't matter. Always do the right thing. And I learned all of that from him. And I guess the last thing I probably learned from him was on the latter end of my career, we had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Well, that's all well and good, but now it's about the next one and the next game, the next championship, and continuing your growth. So that's how I think too. And hopefully we're going to continue to win and grow and do it together with our family and our friends and our client base.
I remember a high school game. I went with my good friend, the late Earl Robinson, and watching Lowell play East Grand Rapids. And Kevin Grady was tearing it up. And you guys had a fantastic game, but it was the toughest ticket that you got all year. And there were people actually sitting in trees watching that game.
Yeah, we, I would compare our hometown to as close as you're going to find what you'd expect, like in a small town Texas kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
The whole town shuts down to come watch football out there. And when you're playing your rival, which is East Grand Rapids for us, they pulled out all the stops and everybody came to watch that game. So I had a lot of really cool and special memories in high school and atmospheres to play in where we were, playing in front of more than 10,000 people. I can count on at least two hands that we did that. So it was pretty cool.
Well, after you returned from the year at Norman, you were back here 2008 through 2011, right?
Yep, exactly.
And 4 straight wins over the University of Michigan?
That's right.
Okay, so Alex, let it be known that Keith Nickel never lost to the Wolverines. We can say that, and not even Kirk Cousins can say that. But I'm looking at another photo here, Keith, and this is from last weekend, I think. It's you and Mel Tucker, and you had a chance. I know how excited Darian Harris was about this, but you coming in and helping educate former players and a speech, and Darian said, hey, these guys were paying attention. They were listening, not just because you were one of them, but because you had some pretty important information you wanted to pass along at Spartan Dog Con. Can you explain that?
Yeah, number one, Coach Tucker is doing a great job of bringing former players, current players, and recruits all into the mix and to interact with each other. There's a ton of tradition at Michigan State and a lot of success and prior success, so he's really embracing that. And the Spartan Con event, which I thought was brilliant, is kind of a 2-day event. First day, Friday, it's kind of just more of a gathering and everybody getting together. Then Saturday was a great day of, they brought in speakers and former alumni to talk about financial literacy, which I spoke about. Then there's nutrition talk, strength and conditioning, all those things, which are great and went on all day. Then a party there at the end, which is awesome. So they brought me in to speak on financial literacy and speak to the area of expertise that, I entrenched myself in, and how important, doing the right things on a day-to-day basis in finance is just as important as you would in handling things at home and in your own business and in other things. And so we talked about the fundamentals as it relates to taxes and compound interest and things like that, lines of credit, understanding debt. We talked through all those things, and it was engaging and a lot of fun because the demographic of former players was vast. It was guys who just graduated like Darian all the way to guys who I think were like 80 years old. So it was a lot of fun.
Probably some players who said, how come I'm just learning this now? I wish I'd known it 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of guys that came up and said, I wish I would have known some of those things, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But, the old mantra in finance is that it's never too late, and you can always kind of continue to better yourself there, too.
Keith, with what you've done and where you are headed, is it possible that you could be representing players in the National Football League? Could they come to you with some of these millions and say, hey, you understand what I do, you know the game, help me with this?
Yeah, we've been really fortunate to work with great people, great business leaders, executives. We work with professional athletes, NFL guys, NBA guys, MLB guys, and we've become relatively selective in our type of client that we want to take on, and it's more so about the character and the integrity of the person than it is about what they're showing up with from an asset under management standpoint. And we worked our butts off to get to that place where we can be that kind of selective. But yeah, we love working with the right fit personality wise and character wise with the NFL guys, and with the NBA and MLB people. So yeah, it's been great so far working with them. Hopefully it continues.
Your former teammate and guy who threw you the ball a bunch made $180 million so far in the NFL. You haven't heard anything from Kirk Cousins saying, hey, teammate, you caught a lot of touchdown passes from me. What can you do with my money?
Yeah, he's done well for himself financially, that's for sure. He's had a lot of success on the field. But I will say this, my disclaimer with everything is I got to keep, there's a client confidentiality piece to that.
Oh, okay.
I
got you.
Any of those kind of things or
I got you.
conversations, but it's all good.
Okay. So, Alex, we don't know exactly who he's representing. We're just going to have to guess on this. But I can tell you he's always going to be representing Michigan State. When you think about Mel Tucker and what you see, Keith, with this renewed national recruiting emphasis, Mark had a lot of success, won 3 Big Ten championships with a regional approach, kind of drawing a radius 4.5 hours from East Lansing. That's not the way that Mel is approaching this and bringing in players from California and a ton from Georgia and all across the country. What do you see? What's the vibe? What's the energy now with this new Look Spartan program?
Yeah, Mel Tucker is bringing a lot of energy to the program, and one of the things I'm noticing about him is there are some similarities in the Coach D'Antonio attitude. There's a toughness, there's a no BS, there's a high level of discipline and integrity and character that Mel Tucker is bringing to the program. The same thing Coach D'Antonio did. Mel Tucker is also embracing the new era of college football, which is, how you go about recruiting, managing social media, player engagement, and all those things. I mean, some of the things that are going on right now is I can't even imagine handling that as a coach or a recruit compared to what I even went through 10, 15 years ago. It just seems insane. And so he's embracing that, and the transfer portal is a whole new animal, which he's embracing. Not that Coach D didn't do that, but it's just a different animal, and Mel Tucker's attacking it a little differently, and we'll see how it all plays out. You got to go all win on Saturdays. That's what it comes down to. We got a tough division. We got Ohio State, Michigan. We got all the teams there. The teams that we used to roll are now good. The Northwesterns, the Indianas, the Illinois. Like nobody's really backing down.
Right.
And our division's tough. So he's got a big challenge in front of him. But I think, from what I can tell, he's in a great position to build upon that. And I think what people tend to forget, at least I did, is that he has spent a lot of time at Michigan State, as an assistant coach and things, and so he's got a lot of pride to be a Spartan.
I think back to when you returned to Michigan State, and a lot of people don't realize that you and Kirk Cousins split time, and probably the most memorable spring game in Michigan State history where you both tore it up. I think you finished with exactly the same number of passing yards, but then you kind of took one for the team in 2009 when Michigan State had a depleted roster, that little altercation, big altercation actually, and needed some help at receiver, and you went out there for the bowl game, and next thing you know, you were a mainstay for the Spartans. A lot of guys wouldn't have done that, and how often have you thought about how your career might have been different if you'd stayed at quarterback?
Yeah, it's interesting. When anybody looks back in their life, they'd say, what if this would have gone differently or that gone differently? You could say that about, what would have happened if I stayed at Oklahoma, and, Michigan State not moving to receiver. But at the end of the day, I want to win more than I want to play any position. I want to be a part of something special and win championships. And so, in that 2009 year was a special year, not from wins category, but it really formed our team from a character standpoint, and, all well entrenched in our roles. And so, when I, dislocated my elbow against Illinois, missed a couple of games. Kirk runs with the offense, does great, and we need help at a certain position, and they tap me on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm an athlete first, quarterback second. Like, I want to win football games. Right. I want to win in life. Like, that's what I want to do, and I want other people to win. And when we all do well, we're all going to win together. So that was my mindset, and I never looked back or really ever thought about it again after that.
Well, as much as you helped the program at receiver, we're going to talk about that in just a minute, and I think I've told you this. I always said that if I ever had seen a player who could have switched to another position and been an NFL player, it was Keith Nichols, a free safety. And your knowledge of the passing game, your familiarity with that, your hands, all of the physicality that you brought to the position, I really could have seen you playing a long time in the pros at that position. But I think back to some of the things that you accomplished. Michigan State getting a Big Ten championship in 2010. Playing in the first Big Ten championship game, phenomenal game, a 42-39 game against Wisconsin in 2011, the 4 wins over Michigan. And I think of some of the plays, I can still see you with the touchdown catches. You had a touchdown pass against Alabama. You had one of my favorite plays, that catch and lateral with B.J. Cunningham against the Badgers. So you have some moments that Spartan fans are still talking about.
Yeah, well, I was fortunate to be a part of some special teams with special players. So, that lateral, that's funny you say that. That lateral to BJ is probably my favorite play too. And my joke is that if BJ would have, kept his block, I probably would have scored the touchdown. I wouldn't have had to lateral it to him. But that's okay. He can have the touchdown credit. We'll just throw the flash up there for to make it happen. But it's funny that you brought up the safety thing, because Coach Narduzzi was talking to me about getting in on defense for blitz packages and playing safety and things like that.
Yeah.
We also had a lot of great safeties playing for us. So I'm not here to pretend like I can just step in and play that. It's a very tough position and step in and play it right away. But it would have been interesting to see how that would have went too. You never know.
Alex, Keith Nichol would have been an NFL starter at free safety. I will go to my grave saying that. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about quarterback situations. And Michigan State has one right now, Keith. They have Peyton Thorne back. Rocky Lombardi transfers, goes to Northern Illinois, and Peyton Thorne, who took over the job and threw for 325 yards against Penn State. And now Anthony Russo comes in, and he's thrown more than 60 touchdown passes on the East Coast. And they're battling, and one day maybe it's one guy, and one day it's maybe the next guy. What are they going through right now with practice beginning tomorrow?
Well, I think the dynamics of what each one are going through is going to be very different, because one is at least perceived to be extremely experienced and more of a veteran, while one is much younger and less experienced. So what the dynamics of their mindset are going to be very different. At the end of the day, it's all about who's going to step in that huddle and provide the most confidence and go out and execute for Mel Tucker his offense as he needs to execute it. Is he looking for a playmaker? Is he looking for a guy who's just going to hit the X's and O's?
Yeah.
That's kind of a coaching strategy and style, and I think those players are going to have to fit into that mold. But at the end of the day, if you can't lead your team, it's irrelevant as a quarterback. So that's all going to come out in camp, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure, but at the same time, competition breeds talent and success and the best in everybody.
We're talking with former Spartan quarterback and wide receiver Keith Nichol, named one of the top 100 financial advisors in the country. Keith, I'm glad to hear you say that about leadership, because in talking with Mel and offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Jay Johnson, when you think about what people normally look at, I don't think it matters as much whether someone has a ton of experience. I don't think it matters as much whether someone has more years ahead and they can build. I don't think it matters as much whether someone has a stronger arm or quicker feet. This decision is going to be made on who the best leader for this offense is, and that's a hard thing for fans to get a grip of.
Yeah, because those are intangibles that nobody can look and know at a piece of paper who that guy is. Yeah. And people like to compartmentalize other people and other factors, but you really can't as a quarterback. And Tom Brady is probably the greatest example of that in the history of all of athletics. You can't figure him out by looking at a piece of paper.
Right.
And I think the other factor is I don't know how tough these guys are either. And full Big Ten season is no joke. And going through that and being able to embrace that and put the team on your shoulders and get hit and banged up and manage fourth quarters day in and day out is a different animal. So I don't know that about them either. Toughness, heart, their mental capacity, how they handle pressure. There's a lot of things they're going to have to assess and figure out.
Keith, when you think about the challenge last year for Mel Tucker coming in on February 12th, then having to hire a staff, and then getting to know the personnel, and they were wearing name tags for a long time, and then no spring practice, and then they find out they're not going to have a season, so they're not practicing, they're just doing strength training, and then all of a sudden they hear, oh, by the way, get ready to play. You're going to play, and you're going to play this abbreviated schedule, and then, oh, by the way, you're not going to play this week because that team has a COVID outbreak, and somehow they managed to get a win over a top 15 Michigan team and to dominate the West Division champions, then number 8 ranked Northwestern. Now, they had some other games that didn't go very well, but nonetheless, there were moments where you could kind of see some things. But what's it going to be like this year, opening up against a Big Ten opponent on the road late on a Friday night, and this team is itching for a payback after you're the team that beat them a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, that's to the kind of the point brought up a little bit earlier. I want to not lay downs, but there are games that in the Big Ten that were easier than others, and Illinois and Indiana and Northwestern would be kind of in that category. Well, what Fitzgerald's doing over there and the attitude those kids have, and they're bright kids, obviously. That's going to be no walk in the park for game one, especially with the new quarterback. They're going to be ready to go, and he's going to have them all fired up and pissed off about what happened last year and the whole deal. So it's game one's going to be a challenge, and they're going to have their hands full. And then, of course, going to Miami, and our schedule is interesting for this new coach, or newer coach, I should say. But he also has proved that he can take those challenges. He goes to the big house and beats Michigan, who, I don't know who gave us a chance to win that game. I think probably nobody gave us a chance to win that. So those kind of moments and flashes of greatness give me a lot of hope for the team. And I think he's building a lot more depth, too, which is what we need to help win these kinds of games. So I think hopefully he's getting them in good shape.
If you could say anything to Anthony Russo, a transfer, you went through this. He's coming in with 1 year to go. You came in after one season. What would you tell him about the new environment and gaining the trust and respect of an entirely new team?
Yeah, I think it's, at the quarterback position especially, you just have to be yourself. You can't try to be anybody else. You got to lead the way you lead, be the best version of yourself, and be the ultimate businessman on and off the field. You can't. I don't know what the experience like or what he was like at his previous university. I don't really care. But at Michigan State, at a program in the Big Ten, what I do know is that the most successful quarterbacks I've been around and athletes at Michigan State are the guys that handled their business on the field and off the field, stayed out of trouble, and treated it like a career and, like I said, a business. So that's what I'd tell them.
One more question about Michigan State for you, Keith. Spartan Dog Con. When you hear the phrase Spartan Dog, or someone asks you, what's Spartan Dog? They're not the dogs, they're the Spartans. What do you tell them? What does that mean?
It can mean a lot of things, but I think at the end of the day, ultimately, really what it is the it's a step up above just being a Spartan. Like the dog means that you have a certain attitude. You've been a former athlete. You have this tenaciousness to you and blue chip attitude to you. And being a Spartan dog is just a different level. It doesn't mean you're greater than a Spartan or anything. It just there's this camaraderie of being a Spartan dog that you went through, the treatment of the U of M fan base and the rivalry there, and all the attitude that's brought out in you and that blue collar mentality. That's ultimately what it's really about.
Last thing for you, very quickly, if somebody wants to find out more about one of the top 100 financial advisors in the country, where do they get that information? What's your site? Yeah, so if they go to KeithNickel@nm.com, that's my website. It has a little breakdown about me and my team. They can also call my office at 248-362-5009. And the nice thing about the internet is you type my name into Google, it'll pop probably up pretty quick, outside of a little to BJ or something like that. You'll see it. There you go. Keith Nickel at NM, as in Northwestern Mutual, NM.com. Keith, thanks for joining us. Hope to talk to you later this season.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys.
All right. I want to thank all of our guests today. Jim Stark, Michigan Sports Legacy Conservancy. Bluebelly Tom Crawford, Tom Lang for The Long Drive, brought to you by Forest Acres and Golf MSU, and James Pyatt and Chris Hale. We'll be back tomorrow, everyone. Have a great night.